What is up, Jeep Gypsies? Welcome back to the Hooked and Road Bound podcast. I'm your host, Christy, and today we're talking about the best times to hook into some monster redfish. Yep, we've got an upcoming new moon on February 27th, which is tomorrow, and it's going to make those reds go absolutely wild. So this morning I woke up and there was absolutely no wind at all. And it's about 65, 68 degrees. And I decided to take my stand-up paddleboard out fishing because I can't take my kayak because it's 90 pounds and I didn't have anybody to help me lift it into the water. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to take my stand-up paddleboard. This will be the second time in the last 5 weeks I've taken my stand-up paddleboard out to go fishing. And about 19 minutes in, I was using a little shrimpette from, I think it's Tide 54. I keep saying Studio 54, but that's not right at all. It's a little shrimpette and it has a purple tail or an indigo tail. And I cast it out just right off of one of my neighbor's docks. And I land a monstrous red. I was not prepared. Always be prepared when you're fishing, right? But I'm learning. I'm 5 weeks in. And I cast it out, I get it a bite, and I hook it. And it is a monster red. It's the biggest redfish I've ever caught. And remember, I've only been redfish fishing for the last 5 weeks. And I pull it in. I fight with it for about 5 minutes. I finally get it up to my sup board. I snap a picture because it was big. It was about 3 foot long. And it was that big around. It was at least 8 inches around. It was a big boy. And I was even contemplating how I was going to pick it up because it was so big. And when I got it up to the sup board, I thought, man, I wish I had my net. It was at home. And I snapped a picture real quick with my sunglasses and he broke my line. So he was more than 8 pounds because that was an 8-pound test line. So there is some monstrous reds. So I thought that was my inspiration for today's podcast. So let's talk about tides, the new moon that's coming up, and redfish. So if you're going to be rolling in your Jeep or out kayak fishing, strapped down, you're chasing that perfect bite. Grab your coffee. I've got mine. Your bait bucket, and let's roll into it. Now, I like using lures, so I'm not using a bait bucket, but I thought that just sounded good. Now, if you've been chasing reds and wondering why some days they're fired up and other days they're just playing hard to get, it might be the moon phase is messing with your bite. Lucky for us, we have a new moon rolling in tomorrow on February 27th, 2025. And let me tell you, it ain't just any moon phase. This is prime redfish hunting season. Yep. So what's a new moon? Because I'm new into this redfish. I'm new into tides. I'm new into the moon stuff, but I wanted to know more about it. What's a new moon? Well, picture this. The moon is hanging out between the earth and the sun, and because of alignment, we can't see it at all. There won't be any new moonlight. It'll be just dark skies, strong tides, and feeding frenzies beneath the surface. And if you know how to read tides, which I'm just learning, it's where the redfish are hunting. You can turn this into a new moon phase, which is a non-stop catching spree. I think that's why I hooked such a big red this morning. So grab your rods, load up your kayak, and let's talk about the new moon and one of the best redfish bites of the season. So we've got that new moon on February 27, which means stronger tides. And when I say strong, I mean ripping currents, higher tides, lower lows. This is because the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon. Spring is on the way. The sun and moon are lined up, which is called a spring tide. And no, that doesn't mean it's only in the spring. These tides happen twice a month during full moon and new moons. For us on the coastal bend, Corpus Christi, Aransas Pass, Port Aransas, Redfish Bay, Rockport. This means we see movement at its peak. And guess what? That's what the redfish really love. Now, where are the redfish during the new moon phase? Let's talk strategy. Because I believe there's a pattern to fishing, and I'm figuring it out every single day. Redfish are ambush predators, meaning they love using tides to bring dinner right to them. When the big tides are around the new moon, here's what to focus on: shallow flats and grass lines. High tides push the bait onto the flats near Estes Coves, Lighthouse Lakes, St. Joe Island. Reds will be tailing in that skinny water, smashing shrimp and mullet. Marsh drains and cuts. As the tide drops, redfish will sit in the cuts and drains, waiting for bait fish to get flushed out. Try areas like Aransas Pass channels, Port Bay, and the edges of Redfish Bay. Now, deep pockets and drop-offs. If it's midday, the sun gets really strong. It's hot out there today. Reds will stack up in deeper gut pockets and at the edges of oyster reefs, like the one in South Bay and Copano Bay. Now, what are the best baits and lures to use for new moon reds in February of 2025? So what do you throw out? Here's a playbook for February's new moon bite: live bait. If you want a surefire hookup, live shrimp or mullet under a popping cork is on fire right now. The sound of the cork will bring flat reds in fast. Artificial lures. That's what I like. Soft plastics. Paddle tails in white or chartreuse. Work them on the bottom as the reds are feeding aggressively. The gold spoon, which is the classic redfish killer, perfect for clear water and a fast-moving tide. Top water lures like Spook Junior or She Dog. If the tide is high in the morning, work that on the top water over shallow flats and watch for blow-ups. The perfect game plan. If you're heading out for the new moon for the redfish to bite, here's how to do it. Sunrise bite. This is the high tide. Start shallow. Hit the grass flats with a top water plug. Then switch to a popping cork and live shrimp. Midday, this is when the tide's starting to drop. Work the drains and channels with paddle tails and spoons. Now for the evening, which I had an amazing evening a couple days ago, I caught 20 reds and one huge black drum. This is the low tide and slack water. Head to the deeper oyster reefs and drop-offs using soft plastics or a jig head. And that's where the big bulls will be lurking. Now, here's some closing thoughts. So you have it. Folks, February the 27th, new moon equals red fish, which are my favorite to catch. This is the best one of all times to get those hard chasing reds. So get out there, watch the tides, and hook on some coastal magic. And hey, if you land a monster, tag me on Facebook. I definitely want to see it. Or on TikTok at Badass Gypsies, and share your catch. That's it for today's episode. This was episode number 3 of Hooked and Roadbound. Tight lines, salty vibes, and I'll see you guys on the water. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.